This is a group evaluation of our trip to Melbourne. Our topic was public transport, and our question was, does Melbourne's public transport infrastructure, is it efficient enough to cater for all the city's business and tourism needs? So we studied this in depth while we were in the city, doing lots of street and one formal interview.
We learned in the street interviews that most people use public transport. We had very few people that don't, and the people that don't are mostly tourists. We also learned that the most used public transport system is the train. The train is the greatest holding capacity out of all the public transport systems. They have a great frequency of arrival. There's a lot of them going at the same time.
The whole transport system is actually quite efficient, although it can be improved in some areas, which is what we sort of learned about in our street and formal interviews.
Most people also use the trams, probably because in the city they've set up a free tram line. Some people think public transport costs are too high if you're not a student because they get cheaper tickets.
Most people in the street interviews are happy with the public transport system, but a lot of them said that they did want a train line from the airport into the city so they could move more efficiently and not have to catch a taxi for half an hour.
But what we learned in our formal interview is that most people just want something for the sake of wanting something new. They don't actually really need it. Most of the time they'll probably just catch the taxi anyway back and forth from the airport.
And that's why in the formal interview, Michael James told us that they have to allocate the budget that they get given for transport to the high priority projects. So when they actually take into account all of the variables and stuff that the people want and what could better improve the city's infrastructure, the airport train was down on that list. Like Zach said, it's just a shiny new thing that people think they want but probably don't actually need.
We also learned in our formal interview that all the trains go into a spaghetti junction, and as soon as one train goes down, then it affects all the other trains because they all link into one place.
This is why with the town planning and stuff like that, they have to sort of take into account the future plans of that sort of spaghetti ball of the train lines. What Michael said in our interview was that the end goal would probably be a metro rail system like in Hong Kong where the trains just go from point A to point B, and it's a very simple rail system. And yeah, but first they have to unjumble that spaghetti, and that will cost a lot, so this is just future plans at the moment.
Most people in the city don't really find a need for a car, especially young people going to uni and things like that, because the public transport systems are so good, they reckon. And also just to get around the city, they can go through the free tram zones, which is like the main city circle, which are the main places that people need to go, and things like that. And also you're avoiding all the traffic throughout Melbourne. And the traffic is normally pretty bad in Melbourne, so yeah.
Another thing that probably could be improved that we noticed from our street interviews and the formal was that the Myki cards in Melbourne, some people in the street interviews actually wanted to have paper tickets back, because at the moment the system is you can only get onto a train or tram with a Myki card. But however, if you're like a tourist or someone that just needs to use it once, then it's a waste of money buying like a $30 Myki card and then putting money on that just to get around a trip that you make once. So that's one of the other improvements, or the improvements.
And you also need a different Myki card or card for each state you go to in Australia, so that's a pretty bad system.
If it was all one, it'd be much better. So you can just bring your Go card or Myki card everywhere you go, to every city, and you can go at places.
Yep. In our formal interview, we learned that buses aren't really used in the city, only outside the city, and this is because the trams are so popular. When we were interviewing, we found out what people to look out for to not interview, like people who are walking a bit faster than usual, they trying to get somewhere. We also, when people dodged us when we were trying to interview them, we knew not to interview them.
Overall, I think our group did really well managing our time. I personally think our group worked really well, but there were some navigation issues along the way, but we ended up sorting them out, which is good.
We also managed to get all the work done on time, and when Quinny sort of set us deadlines for our street interviews, we pushed hard and actually got them all done.
We absolutely killed the IHOS challenge.
Google Maps, guys.
So in conclusion, we all think our group did pretty well and worked pretty good during the whole trip. There were a few issues with navigation and other stuff, but that was probably with all the groups. But as a group as a whole, we think we all did pretty good. Thanks!
Didn't say
So
that.
gay.
Okay, let's just